Look, you probably spent hours trying to improve your reflexes, right? You do the speed drills, you try punching faster, moving quicker, reacting harder. You're basically treating your body like it's a machine that just needs a slight upgrade in horsepower. But here is the hard scientific truth we're going to unpack in this explainer today. Reflexes in a real fight absolutely do not work like reaction time in a video game. Most people are completely convinced that getting faster just means training your muscles to move quicker. But the real reason martial arts champions and elite fighters seem to react instantly, it's because they aren't actually reacting at all. They're reading patterns before the strike even starts. So today, we are going to debunk the biggest myth in combat sports and show you the actual science behind reaction speed. Okay, let's dive straight into this. Here's our visual roadmap. We'll start with the speed myth debunked, move into the perception action loop, cover reading the shoulder line, talk about creating a reaction cushion, and finish up with building your reflex library.
All right, Section 1, the speed myth debunked. Stop treating real life like a video game. Now, in a video game, dodging is purely about how fast your thumb can mash a button. And in physical combat, the math is kind of the same, that you just need to train your muscles to twitch faster. But the reality? You actually need to train your brain to read patterns earlier. Your physical muscles are totally fine. The core problem is that your brain simply doesn't know what it's looking at until it's entirely too late. You aren't physically slow, you're just recognizing the threat too late.
Moving on to Section 2, the perception action loop. This is the brain's processing bottleneck. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is what happens biologically. When a strike comes your way, your brain has to process the visual data, decide on a response, and then signal your muscles. We call this sequence the perception action loop. Most people try to shorten this loop by hyper-focusing on the action part, the muscles. But the true bottleneck isn't the action at all, it's the perception. The scientific reality is that the faster you perceive and recognize the threat, the earlier you can start moving. You literally reduce your reaction delay by speeding up the brain's processing, not your body's twitch.
And that leads us to perceptual anticipation. This is the absolute secret weapon of the heroes of the sport, those professional champions and martial arts elites. They use this strategy to anticipate opponent movements incredibly early. Fighters who seem to have these lightning-fast, superhuman reflexes, they aren't physically moving faster. They simply process these mental patterns unconsciously because their brain has cataloged the setup from hundreds of past exposures. They bypass the deliberate decision-making phase entirely, which allows their bodies to transform visual recognition into an instinctive, incredibly fast reaction before the attacker has even fully committed.
Which brings us to Section 3, reading the shoulder line. This is where the attack actually starts.
So the number one beginner mistake? Staring at the opponent's hands. If you do that, your reaction will already be way too late. But by shifting your visual focus away from the fists and onto the shoulder line, you buy yourself a massive advantage. A vital quarter of a second, 0.25 seconds. Why? Because every single punch physically requires the shoulder to move first. Whether it's a straight punch like a jab pushing forward or a hook that requires a wide load, you see that punch forming a full quarter second earlier just by watching the shoulder instead of the glove.
So the crucial point here is that quarter second is literally the difference between blocking comfortably and getting hit clean. In the absolute chaos of a fight, a quarter of a second is an eternity. It is the absolute difference between looking like a master of defense or ending up on the canvas. It completely alters the reality of the fight.
Here is exactly how you train this to increase your accuracy in pattern recognition. You can do a solo practice by facing a mirror to identify those shoulder patterns, or use a two-person teamwork method. Stand facing your partner and look softly at their chest, using your peripheral vision to monitor the shoulder line. Have your partner throw slow punches. Your goal for these 3-minute rounds is to verbally call out the punch type, jab, cross, or hook, before the fist is even halfway to you. This method forces your eyes to pick up on those subtle body movements instantly.
All right, Section 4, creating a reaction cushion, controlling the distance to get more brain processing time.
Visual memory is amazing, for sure. But even perfect visual recognition will fail you if you're standing entirely too close in the pocket. You have to establish a reaction cushion. Elite fighters actually treat range like a volume dial. As they move their feet, their perspective naturally changes. They intentionally step out to force the punch to travel a longer path, giving their brain the crucial space and distance it needs to process the incoming pattern and send the signal to defend.
So how much distance are we actually talking about here?
just 6 extra inches. That is it. Being just 6 inches further back means the punch has a longer path to travel, and that tiny fraction of distance buys your brain exactly the processing time it needs to recognize the threat and fire off the right signals to your body. Honestly, if your reflexes feel slow in sparring, you are probably just fighting at the wrong distance.
And this brilliantly illustrates how to practice distance control. Incorporate this into your daily schedule. For 2 rounds a day, intentionally spar at a range where you can easily see every single punch coming. Honestly, it should feel a bit uncomfortable. It should feel too far, like you really have to reach to land a strike. Let your peripheral vision get used to reading the setups from a place of total safety. Then, as your recognition speed gets better, you slowly begin to close that range.
Finally, Section 5. Building your reflex library. The sheer power of repetition.
If you constantly spar with different people in chaotic, random exchanges, your brain just never gets enough repetitions of the same pattern to build a reliable database. Instead, take a standard combination, like a jab, cross, hook. When you see this specific sequence over and over, your perceptual system catalogs the rhythm. It categorizes the specific shoulder motions and the exact weight shifts, learning what's coming before the sequence even finishes.
To really build out this reflex library, you need to drill the exact same setup repeatedly to strengthen that muscle memory. Have a partner throw that exact jab, cross, hook combination 30 times in a row. No variation, no surprises at all. As you defend, focus heavily on your breath control to maintain your mental composure during close combat. If you see a combination 50 times in this calm, controlled state, you literally burn the pattern into your unconscious memory. So when you see it in a real match, your brain instantly knows what to do.
Let's move to and see how this builds into the final result. When you consistently practice reading the shoulder, controlling your distance, and putting in that boring repetition, you achieve a faster read. Your brain simply stops struggling to identify what is happening in front of you.
And because you have that faster read, that instantly translates into an earlier move. You aren't moving your muscles any faster than you were 6 months ago, but you are starting the movement so much earlier in the timeline of the attack. What looks to the outside world like superhuman physical speed is actually just incredibly refined, learned pattern recognition.
And naturally, because you're moving earlier, you suddenly have more time. You have all the time in the world to slip, block, and set up your counterattack. The panic disappears, your nervous tension drops dramatically, all because you have entirely bypassed the brain's processing bottleneck. You are dictating the pace now, operating a full step ahead of the physical reality of the fight.
Reflex speed in fighting is almost entirely learned, guys. It's really just pattern recognition disguised as reaction time. The more you see, the faster you read. The faster you read, the earlier you move. So, the final provocative question I'll leave you with in this explainer is this. Are you ready to stop desperately reacting and start predicting? Take these drills, focus on that shoulder line, step back those 6 inches, and start building your library today. You will be absolutely amazed at the fighter you become.